As for the legislation, as you are aware, on May 18th, Bill AB 1216 passed the Assembly floor vote. And this is the bill coming out of Assemblymember Al Marisucci's office. The bill is now in the Senate and is scheduled to be heard at the Senate Environmental Quality Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 21st. We just heard that today, in fact. So things are moving quite well. I don't want to jinx it, but things are moving along. Feeling good about getting this bill passed. Hopefully, I mean, the best of all possible worlds, it gets passed sometime or signed this fall. Another pretty significant item, a letter that we were CC'd on came last week. And this was 6 weeks after the city's our joint meeting to discuss Hyperion. Senator Ben Allen's office issued a joint letter to the Director and General Manager of LA Sanitation, Ms. Barbara Romero, as you know, regarding the ongoing nuisance and health-related impacts to the people residing near Hyperion. The letter specifically states that this situation is untenable and strongly urges expedited odor mitigation efforts, expanded fence line monitoring for more than hydrogen sulfide, and improved communication to the community. And significantly, the letter was signed not only by Senator Allen, but also Congressman Ted Lieu, Assemblymember Marisucci, and also Los Angeles County Supervisor Holly Mitchell. So really the four key branches of government, local and state, signed this letter. So a pretty powerful letter, which really demonstrates their commitment and support, which we're extremely grateful for. And I do believe that with your input, your direction, as well as staff's tireless advocacy for El Segundo residents and businesses, our concerns are being heard and acted on. So we're very pleased to be CC'd on this letter. Finally, as it relates to AQMD, the Air Quality Management District, at their June 1st board hearing with Hyperion regarding the flares. I think there was an article just yesterday in the front page article in the Daily Breeze. AQMD issued new conditions requiring Hyperion to install new flares in full compliance with AQMD requirements. AQMD anticipates it will take, unfortunately, 9 years to complete the new flares. A very significant, hundreds of millions of dollars costly cost of an effort like this. But that was that came out of the board hearing. In addition, there were 57 odor complaints that were received since May 23rd. AQMD inspectors responded to all of these complaints, but did not confirm any public nuisance violations. The next AQMD hearing of the board is scheduled for 9 a.m. on June 20th, and the agenda for this hearing is posted on the city's website. So that's my report. I also, though, have the pleasure of, if you recall, a couple months ago, staff, the city retained an environmental expert, Dr. Michael Stenstrom, who actually chaired the ad hoc committee report that was a result of the major spill now almost 2 years ago. And Dr. Stenstrom is here this evening with us to share a few comments, if you'd like. And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Michael Stenstrom.
Thank you very much, Daryl. So this is my second appearance here. I'm a professor at UCLA in the Civil and Environmental Department, and my specialty is water pollution control, treatment plants, and so forth. So Daryl and Elias asked me to give you a little report on what I've been doing. And I was involved in AB 1216 writing, and I think my contribution was to make sure that its requirements were manageable so that people couldn't, agencies couldn't just object to it as impractical. So I'm pleased to see that's moving forward. Another job I have is reviewing the reports from Hyperion on the progress of the repairs and the 34 recommendations we made. So that report's gone from about 3 pages to 23 pages. There's a lot of activity there. And I'm pleased to see that some of the recommendations have been worked on and completed, those that are most acute, such as level alarms and duplications of certain things. There's other long-term recommendations, such as recontouring some of the roads, so that if there is a flood in the future, it doesn't flood out the tunnels, it goes somewhere else. And so I've been doing that. The report actually goes to Elias, but I get copies of it. One of the things that's been progressing are the primary covers, the primary tank covers. Primary clarification is a process that's pretty much standard at all treatment plants. It's settling. Things settle out, and because there's no aeration, no oxygen, it's an odor-producing process. And for that reason, the tanks are usually covered. And the covers are connected, the under part is connected to some sort of vacuum system that goes to a treatment. And if you look at Hyperion, you can see some tall columns with sort of narrowing at the top, and those are odor treatment devices. So if the cover is functional and not leaking, the foul air can go through the treatment system. But if the covers are imperfect and leaking, then some of them can escape. And they've been replacing their covers. The report I just read, which just came today, indicated that they had completed one set of clarifiers. There are 4 batteries, and that they were going to start on the next one. My own curiosity is why it's all being done now. I was wondering why it hadn't been phased along. But anyway, that's progressing. And people have wondered why it takes so long. But the covers are sort of custom built. They're long strips set next to each other so that they can be lifted and moved. So another thing I've been doing, and it's because I know something of the Bureau, or LA Sand, and that is that it's one of the largest. The people that work there tend to think that they're the beginning and the end of wastewater treatment, but they're not. They're just one of many. And I've asked in those 34 recommendations for their staff to attend conferences on collection systems, to improve their knowledge of collection systems. And it's a technology that was static for a long time, but now it's becoming very active, especially in places like Los Angeles, where water conservation is reducing the flow of wastewater. And sewers are designed for a certain capacity, and if you don't have that capacity, you can get accumulation of solids. So if you get a big rainfall, those solids can get washed into the plant. And that's one thing that the Hyperion staff thought might have happened earlier, although that's not the reason. So I've been recommending to Tracy that she send people. It's something they probably don't want to do because it's involving out-of-state travel and budget and so forth, and people have to be away from work. But I intend to follow up on that so that we have some national experts within our regional facility. So towards the last thing I'm going to say here is that I've asked the staff to let me tour some of the repairs they're making. I want to see them. And they've agreed to do that. I have to give them some times. And I met with the environmental committee on Thursday at noon, and they asked to join a tour as well. So I will set that up for them. So that's all I intend to say. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Stenstrom. Questions?
I just have one question. So on the covers, there was 2 components. There was the temporary covers and then the permanent covers. And I know when Ryan and I toured it many months ago, they had already completed one, so I'm surprised that the second one isn't done now as well. So if we could just push or find out what's the delay. I mean, we've been hearing the same answer for quite a while, many months, and then they were supposed to give us an answer on what the temporary covers were going to be, and we still have not heard that answer. So I appreciate that they're moving forward. And then the other thing we had asked is that they would institute a long-term plan for replacement covers rotation. And I just want to make sure that we're not sitting here 5 years from now still talking about these covers.
Yeah. Well, I was a little surprised that they're replacing them all at the same time, because usually there would be a phased replacement that would spread out the work over time. But I'll be sure to ask those questions.
Anything else? Thank you, Dr. Stenstrom. City Manager, anything further on the comments?
The only comment is if you could if the council would consider moving item 13
We
under staff for the establishment of an aquatics manager classification
we will
item.
take that up after the procedural motions, City
Oh, I'm sorry,
Manager.
okay.
Robert's Rules of Order,
All
probation.
right, sorry about that.
I'll make a motion.
Madam Clerk, buzz him with that. First, procedural motions. Do I have a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions by agenda and title only?
Baldino so moves.
For